Picture this. Two officers on a quiet morning decide today's the day to show off. No real cause, no caution, no humanity. They zero in on a man they assume has no power, no pull. Then they find out. He's the one who reviews their evaluations, greenlights their promotions, and could end their careers before lunch is over. That man. That's me. My name is Darius Cole. I'm the newly appointed Deputy Commissioner for Standards and Accountability here in Rivergate, Maryland. My role? Overseeing the ethical conduct of our entire department, every precinct, every special unit, even the academy where new recruits are shaped. Most of the time, I'm in a suit behind reinforced glass. But once a week, I swap the title for a hoodie and walking shoes, just another middle-aged black man blending into the city. No security detail, no government plate, just me, a plain charcoal pullover, work slacks, worn-out leather shoes, and the streets that keep policy honest. This morning, I stopped by Leia's corner. Her bodega smells like rising dough and old newspapers. I chatted with her about her grandson's scholarship forms, helped a fifth grader choose a science magazine, bought my coffee, waved to Mr. Shaw at the deli, and stepped back onto the sidewalk. The air was thick with the scent of coming rain and bus fumes. A siren cried out somewhere distant. Then much closer. Tires screamed. A patrol car whipped to the curb in a theatrical fishtail. Two officers sprang out like they'd rehearsed the scene for weeks. Officer Kyle Mercer, broad frame, clenched jaw, the kind who treats rules like breath mints. And Officer Logan Hart, nervous energy, young, following the wrong mentor's lead. Mercer slammed his door. Hands where I can see them. I was holding a coffee and a brown paper bag. I lifted both, palms open. Morning, officers. Something I can help you with? Hart's eyes ran over me like I was graffiti. ID now? You match a description. I kept my voice even. And what description is that? Mercer closed the gap between us. Mine. People began to slow. A bus let out a sigh at the corner. Three teens coasted to a stop on scooters, watching. Through the window, Leia's hand appeared, phone raised. Then it happened. Mercer snatched the coffee from my grip and slammed it against my chest like it could do damage. As I instinctively braced, he shoved me onto the hood. The engine was still hot, burning through my shirt. Stop resisting, he barked, though I hadn't moved. Hart patted my pockets like I was a piece of furniture. What's this? He pulled out my badge case, tucked away in an inner pocket for when I walk alone. It's mine, I said. He didn't even check it, just dropped it onto the curb. Mercer pushed my head down harder. The hood bit into my ribs. That old ache returned, anger stirring, dignity tensing. Officer, I said with control, you have no probable cause. I'm not resisting, and you're making a serious mistake. Mercer laughed. That dismissive laugh designed to strip you of your humanity. Only mistake here is you thinking you get a say. Cameras clicked on. The teens started filming. The bus driver cut the engine. Mr. Shaw stepped out, still in his apron. Leia pushed the bodega door open with her hip. Phone recording. Why are you hurting him, she called. He shops here every week. Hart scowled. Ma'am, step back. Or what? Leia shot back. She's barely 5'2", but forged from steel. Mercer cuffed one wrist. No care for nerves or ligaments. Men like him never are. He yanked my other wrist behind me and snapped on the second cuff. Loud enough for the whole block to hear the line we'd just crossed. I took a breath. Officers, I said, I'm formally stating that I will be filing a report about this stop. On what grounds? Hart sneered. I looked him in the eye. You'll read them. A second cruiser pulled up. Sergeant Serena Morales stepped out, taking in everything at once. My clothes, the crowd, the badge case lying in the gutter. The tension in the air. The heat rippling off the hood. What's your PC? She asked flatly. Matched a suspect. Refused to comply. Aggressive posture. Mercer replied without blinking. Morales's jaw set. She turned to me. Sir, do you have identification? In the black case on the curb, I said. She picked it up, flipped it open, froze. Just a second. Then she shut it with a click and slipped it into her vest pocket like it was something dangerous. Our eyes met. She understood. And she made a call. Uncuff him, she said. Mercer laughed. Sarge, with respect. That's an order. He hesitated. Hart looked lost, like the floor might fall out. Sergeant, I said quietly. Leave them on. Mercer smirked like he'd won. Morales looked confused. I'm willing to be brought in, I said, making sure everyone could hear. So there's a complete record. But I'd like the watch commander present when we talk. Morales studied me. There's a kind of conversation you have without speaking when your career's on the edge of something. She nodded. As you wish. Mercer, Hart. He's coming in. Treat him like a human being while you still can. They loaded me into the back seat, cuffs biting, body angled to avoid the cracked patrol shield, and the wad of gum pressed into the corner. Morales held my badge. The crowd held the story. My name lived in the city's files. My face lived in their phones. Hart kept glancing at me in the mirror. Mercer drove like the wheel owed him rent. You know, I said mildly, your dashcam's date stamp has been wrong for a month. They both flinched. You a tech guy? Mercer asked after a beat. Something like that. We passed the river, where gulls circled low over driftwood. I counted bridges. Focused on my breath. 4 in, 4 out, like my therapist taught me after a different pair of cuffs in a different city long ago. Mostly it worked. The chairs feel like they were built specifically to discourage conversation, low-backed, stiff, and slumped with the weight of decades in mid-tier government. Lieutenant Adrian Keller, the watch commander, meets us at the intake room door with the expression of a man who believes he's captaining a ship, despite never having set foot below deck. What's the charge? He asks, already sounding bored. Interference, suspicious behavior, resisting. Mercer replies by rote, like a lazy kid reciting the ABCs. Keller barely glances up. Fine. Book him, then I'll. Morales clears her throat. Sir, I think you need to. In a minute, Sergeant, Keller interrupts. The word sergeant sounding suspiciously like woman in his mouth. Hart hesitates, pen hovering above the intake form, looking at me like he's afraid the truth might jump off my tongue and slap him. I stay silent. There's a rhythm to bad reports. They rhyme, just never in the right places. Mercer scribbles that I matched a suspect. Male, dark hoodie, unknown. In Rivergate, that's half the men out before 10 a.m. He writes that I ignored a lawful order. There was no order. Just his voice and my obligation to survive. He claims I tensed up during the encounter. Of course I did. You try getting thrown against a hot hood and staying relaxed. He adds, minor force used. Tell that to the throb in my shoulder. Hart signs off as a witness. His signature shakes. Morales stands to the side, thumb hovering over her radio. Her eyes meet mine, asking a silent question. I give one nod. That's all. She walks over to Keller and speaks quietly. Sir, his identification. Keller snorts, not even pretending to care. Everyone thinks they're a lawyer these days. He chuckles and takes the badge case from her hand. He flips it open, then goes pale. Paper pale. The kind of pale that makes you check your blood pressure. His breath escapes like air from a cracked tire. Officers, his voice has lost its weight. Uncuff him. Deputy Commissioner Cole. Suddenly the room shifts. The kind of stillness where even a stapler would echo. Mercer barks out a stunned laugh. One loud, awkward burst trying to disguise itself as confidence. You're kidding. Do it, Keller says. Not louder. Just older. Hart's fingers scramble at the cuffs. The metal releases my wrist with a click that might as well have been a sermon. In rooms like this, mercy makes a sound. It's not metaphor. Power shifts in this space so fast you can see it leave skin. Mercer's jaw hangs slack, the words retreating behind his gums. Hart's freckles pop like exclamation marks. I roll my shoulders. They're sore, but I've carried heavier burdens. Deputy Commissioner. Keller begins, putting on respect like an ill-fitting jacket. We had no idea. There is something you can do, I say. A room. A table. Body cam uploads. No edits, no deletions. Of course. I turn to Morales. Sergeant, thank you for retrieving the badge. She nods, not with relief, but with confirmation. Sometimes the world can be nudged back toward balance. We sit. I request immediate upload of all body and dash cam footage from the last 72 hours for both officers, plus video from the stop and this very intake room. Keller tries to mutter something about union protocols. I remind him that Policy 719 gives command staff the right to request footage without delay when misconduct is alleged. His mouth closes like a file drawer. Morales places the badge case between us, not as a symbol of rank, but as a marker. This is the line you crossed. Before we begin, I say, let's be clear. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here for accuracy. Hart swallows audibly. It might as well be a mic check. Mercer's jaw is locked up like it's solving math it doesn't understand. We watch. Mercer's body cam shows it all. The approach with no radio call, no dispatch alert, no bolo. Just him saying, stop right there, before I've even taken 2 steps. Then the coffee grab, the shove, the stop resisting, line tossed out like it's a legal requirement. Hart's cam angle shows Leia in the bodega window, phone raised. Her voice clearly says, he shops here every week. Mine says, I'm informing you that I'll be filing a report. Mercer's response, a snort. We pause. Scrub back. Slow it down. Frame by frame. We freeze on the moment his hand strikes my shoulder. Elbow locked, movement deliberate. There's nothing minor about it. Officer Mercer, I ask, what is your training on the legal grounds to stop a pedestrian not observed committing a crime? He clears his throat. Reasonable suspicion. And your basis for suspicion here? He blinks. Match to description. What description? He hesitates. Male hoodie. So, the suspect description was a person. Silence. Hart looks like someone just explained gravity to him. Sir, he blurts, I didn't open the badge case because you didn't care to. I finish. He flinches. I didn't think that I could possibly be someone you'd have to answer to. I say, not with malice, just honesty. His ears flush red. I pull up internal affairs data on both officers. Morales reads aloud. Mercer, 3 sustained complaints over 5 years for discourtesy. 1 for unnecessary force, reduced in arbitration. Hart, 1 pending for unlawful search during a traffic stop. Keller shifts in his seat. Deputy Darius, some of that is just. This precinct gets the hard calls. Everyone gets the hard calls, I reply. The real question is, what do you do with them? We bring in the city attorney, Felicity Grant, and the Civilian Review Board liaison. I make it clear, no back channels. No, we'll handle this internally. That phrase is just code for hiding things under rugs and calling it landscaping. While we wait, I send a quick message to my chief. Secured full record. Hold comment. Felicity arrives. Legal pad in hand. Eyes like she hasn't slept in days. She sees the marks on my wrist. You okay? I will be. Why didn't you identify yourself right away? Because by the time I could, I say, they were already recorded. If I'd announced who I was out there, they'd pivot, change their tone, invent a dispatch call, rewrite the story in real time. And then we'd be arguing about attitude instead of facts. In that moment, the most powerful thing I could do was stay invisible. That lands. Morales breathes out. Hart looks like he's been peeled. Mercer looks like someone wrote ethics on his favorite toy and threw it in a shredder. Policy takes months. Video takes minutes. By nightfall, the clip is everywhere. Leia's, or what, has gone viral. 3 million views by sunset. Cameras gather outside Precinct 4. The mayor calls for a briefing. The union rep leaves 2 voicemails. I ignore them both. By 6 p.m., we convene an emergency conduct review. Mercer shows up with a guild lawyer in tow, a man who looks like he bills by the frown. His entire expression says how dare you before a word leaves his mouth. Hart walks in alone, shoulders drawn up like he's just realized chairs can bite. We replay the footage, slowed down, annotated, every frame time-stamped. We overlay it with the relevant department policies, probable cause, pedestrian stops, de-escalation, use of force, reporting procedure. The violations are clear, and they stack like bricks. Unlawful stop, unjustified force, neglecting to inspect ID, falsifying details in the initial report, using retaliatory language, preemptive stop resisting before any resistance, general discourtesy, failure to activate the radio for the stop. Mercer's attorney leans forward, citing officer safety. I ask, which safety protocol advises shoving someone before you even ask a question? The attorney shifts. It's a complex neighborhood. Officers have to be proactive. I tilt my head. Ever been proactively shoved while holding your morning coffee? He doesn't answer. Mercer finally speaks. With respect, sir, if you had just complied, none of this would have. I raise my hand to stop him. Officer, I did comply. I spoke. That's not a crime. His jaw tightens. Some people just make things harder than they need to be. I hold his stare. That sentence has ended more lives and careers in this country than we're willing to admit. Hart whispers, I'm sorry. Mercer turns, like the apology is contagious. I'm sorry, Hart repeats, louder this time. His eyes shine, not from fear, but something closer to recognition. Maybe decency, finally showing up. I should have opened the badge case, he says. I should have told Mercer to slow down. I thought matching a hoodie was enough. It's not. It isn't. No, I say. It isn't. By midnight, the decisions are in writing. Officer Kyle Mercer, terminated immediately for violating use of force protocols, executing an unlawful detention, and submitting a false report. Referred to the State Post Commission for decertification review. Officer Logan Hart, suspended without pay. Assigned remedial training. Placed on a 1-year probation. Final retention dependent on successful completion of a mentorship program. Under a field training officer chosen by standards and accountability, not the precinct. Lieutenant Adrian Keller, demoted to sergeant for failure of supervisory oversight and a documented pattern of ignoring early warnings about Mercer's conduct. Precinct 4, immediate audit ordered, stop and search data, body cam usage, complaint handling timelines. Department-wide launch of the Streetlight Pledge, a new policy that assumes every public interaction may be seen by the community it affects, because it will. Cameras aren't a threat. They're witnesses. Felicity, Grant signs. Morales signs. I sign last. Mercer's attorney sputters. We're going to grieve this. You have that right, I reply. So does this city. The next morning, we stand at a podium in front of a freshly painted wall, reporters lifting mics like spears. The mayor speaks first, voice shaking with the relief of not having to lie. Then I step forward. My name is Darius Cole. I begin. I serve as Deputy Commissioner for Standards and Accountability. Yesterday morning, 2 officers stopped me without lawful cause. One used force. Both disregarded policy. Many of you have seen the footage. Some of you were there. I did not announce my title on that sidewalk, because I shouldn't have to. No one should need a business card to be treated like a person. What happened to me happens every day to people without microphones. People with the same bones. The same right to walk home, unbruised and unbroken. I outline the consequences, the terminations, the suspensions, the audits, the monthly data we'll release, stop demographics, force incidents, resolution timelines. I announce a public town hall, not in a government office, but in the gymnasium at Rivergate Middle, where the floors still smell like rubber sneakers and childhood victories. A reporter asks if it's personal. It always was, I answer. Because it's public. 3 nights later, I'm standing on the center court. The scoreboard above me is frozen at 88-88. A tie, like the city's holding its breath. The bleachers are packed. Grandmothers clutching purses like sacred texts. Teenagers whose hair could power a movement. Teachers, bus drivers, nurses, activists, pastors, postal workers. Leia's in the front row. So is Mr. Shah, still in his apron. We show the footage again. Pause where Mercer's hand hits my shoulder. Pause where Hart's pin stalls before a lie. Pause where Morales's eyes meet mine. Then we listen. Devin, A teenager with worn-out sneakers stands. I get stopped twice a month outside the rec center, he says. Because kids who look like me fit the description. A nurse named Marissa speaks up. I saw an officer once talk a man down from a panic attack. With patience. With grace. I want that to be part of the story too. A union rep raises a concern about due process. I nod. Due process matters most when trust isn't bleeding out on the sidewalk. When it's Leia's turn, she doesn't stand. Just lifts her chin and speaks, voice high and unflinching. We aren't anti-police, she says. We're anti-being hurt for no reason. There's a difference. Learn it. The applause is like rainfall on a tin roof, unfiltered and alive. A week later, I walk the same block. Same hoodie. Different temperature. The air is warmer. The city? Not yet. Morales waits outside Leia's and hands me a folded piece of paper. It's from Hart, she says. I read it later, at my desk, while printers hum and case files thud on nearby desks. His handwriting is careful, like he's trying not to bruise the page. Deputy Commissioner Cole, I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I failed you before I knew who you were. And that's the point. I'm doing the training. I asked to be paired with Officer Bennett. People say he treats others right. I want to learn that. If I stay, it'll be because I've changed. If I can't be different, I shouldn't stay. L.H. I placed the note in a folder labeled corrections. Not because it fixes anything, but because something moved. And records should reflect that, too. Mercer files an appeal. He loses. The state revokes his certification. He starts a podcast, rants about soft cities and paper bosses. I don't listen. The city has work to do, and none of it requires his closing statement. Keller wears his new sergeant stripes like someone still learning how to carry weight that isn't a weapon. Sometimes you have to climb down the ladder to understand that command isn't the same as leadership. That rank means little if no one wants to follow. Morales receives a commendation. She doesn't smile for it. What she really wants. Better shifts. 2 more officers on night duty. And a supervisor who says sergeant like it means respect, not a checkbox on an org chart. That's where we begin. The audit reveals what every honest audit does. Patterns. Some just bent, others rotting through. We fix the ones that can be salvaged. The rest, we tear out at the roots. We rebuild training. This time with the community at the table. Not for appearances, but for design. We resolve past claims without gag orders. Because real justice doesn't come with silence clauses. A payout that demands quiet isn't resolution. It's bribery in a business suit. And me? I still walk once a week. Same streets. Same hoodie. Same coffee in a paper cup. Some mornings, I pass a kid with a scooter. Devin, maybe, and he gives me that wide, unguarded smile that makes you believe in better versions of tomorrow. Other mornings, I pass a patrol car, and the officer inside lifts a hand in greeting first. That shift? It's not magic. It's not luck. It's policy. It's follow-through. It's the slow, stubborn discipline of showing up until your footsteps are no longer seen as a threat, but as part of the neighborhood itself. One morning, outside Leia's, Devin stops me. Why do you still wear the hoodie? He asks. I look at him and say, because some uniforms don't look like uniforms. And some badges don't sit on a belt. They live under the skin. Because the point of the title is to protect people who don't have one. Because the world should work the same even when nobody's watching. Devin nods slowly, like he's filing that moment under truth. Leia hands me a fresh cup of coffee. It's on the house, she says. I shake my head and slip some bills into the tip jar. No, I tell her. Make it on the record. If this story hit something in you, if your jaw tightened at that first shove, if you felt your breath steady when facts stood their ground, if you saw your own block reflected in Rivergate, drop a comment. Tell me which moment cut deepest. Was it the hit? The reveal? The hearing where excuses finally ran out? Because power isn't whoever yells loudest on the curb. It's whoever still shows up on the sidewalk the next morning, believing it can be better. Thank you for watching. Subscribe me and hit the notification bell to not miss new stories. Bye.